right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar, What's in a Brand? Before the quick housekeeping things that we go over every time, I do want to thank our co-host for today's presentation with Scott Clanin, and that is the Champaign County EDC, the Champaign Center Partnership, the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois, the EDC of Decatur and Macon County, Champaign Public Library, the New American Welcome Center at the University YMCA, the Rantoul Chamber of Commerce, the Research Park at the University of Illinois, and Visit Champaign County. So once again, thank you to all of them for helping us with today's presentation. At this time, like I said, I'll just go through a few housekeeping things. You are welcome to ask questions throughout the session. We just ask that you submit those via the chat box, and we will go ahead and answer them at the end of the presentation. So like I said, we do have a pretty large group with us today, so we just want to make sure we get through the presentation before we answer those. You'll also receive a recording of today's session, so you'll be able to go back and listen to it again if there's something that you missed or just want to revisit. And I'll also include the link that Scott shares at the beginning of his presentation, where you can go to the Clanin Marketing website to download a copy of today's presentation. And in that email, a new little thing I'm going to add is also all the links to our partners, so you can check out their sites and see what they're up to as well. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Scott and we'll get started.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jordan, and good morning. Thank you for joining us for our first, I think this is our first webinar of 2023, What's in a Brand? So I want to thank the SBDC and all of our local community partners for making this webinar today and our webinar series for the rest of the year possible. I'm so excited to join you. I've been doing webinars with the SBDC for a number of years now, and again, this year we have a handful of community partners that again help make this webinar possible. So one moment here while I share my screen and I'll pull up today's presentation. All right, Jordan, just confirm, can you see my screen?
I can, thank you.
Excellent. All right, so today's webinar is all about what's in a brand. Like Jordan, I also have a couple of housekeeping items to review. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation, you can go to claninmarketing.com/workshops. Just scroll to the bottom of that page and you're going to see a For Attendees section. Just fill out your name and email, and again, you'll get a copy of today's presentation. Like I mentioned, we partner with the SBDC and a handful of local community partners to provide you a series of marketing webinars throughout 2023. All of these are free to attend. Primarily, they're going to be conducted on Zoom, but we may have a couple of them in person. And the full list of the ones that we have released thus far is again at the top of this page, /workshops. Again, you'll see the full list there. You'll also see the full list of our webinars on the SBDC's website. So make sure to just register for those, and you'll get the link to join. We cover a variety of different topics, from branding, website design, Google Ads. We do a lot with digital marketing. And again, it's all to help strengthen your marketing strategies in your place of business. So I'm so excited that you're here today. Branding is one of my favorite topics. We've done a number of rebrands for different businesses and organizations around the Midwest, and I'm excited to share some tips and tricks with you. So like Jordan mentioned, my name is Scott Clanin. I am the owner and president of Clanin Marketing. We're a full-service marketing creative agency based in downtown Champaign, and we serve clients all across the Midwest. As a marketing creative agency, we offer a variety of different services in branding, website design, graphic design, and more. And so design is one of my favorite things. We work in design with everything that we do, whether that's creating ads for digital marketing, website design, sales collateral, business cards, and more. But branding is really the foundation of all that design. So I'm excited to share everything with you today. Like Jordan mentioned, if you have a question at any point, feel free to use the chat box within the Zoom toolbar, and Jordan will read me those questions at the end of today's presentation. If you've never been to my presentations before, you do know that I wish that we could spend all day talking about the topic, or all week talking about the topic, but we simply don't have the time. So we're going to use about 45 minutes here, 50 minutes to go over the topic and then go into Q&A. But if you would like to learn more about something specific within today's presentation, or maybe there's just a topic that that you're curious about in the world of marketing, feel free to email myself or Jordan as we continue to plan out the rest of the topics for 2023. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. We have a rather large agenda today, but we're going to go into just what is branding. I think when we think of branding, we might immediately think of logo design, and you're not wrong, but there's at least 2 to 3 other really critical steps that you need to take before you get to that logo design, before you get to that brand identity. I'm going to talk about what that brand structure is. Of course, if you're a frequent flyer and if you've been in my webinars, you understand the importance of audience identification. And so we're going to go over the importance of that and how to identify your audience, your mission statement, importance of competitor research, being unique. This is really key, something to think about as we go through today's slide. And then we're going to, in the presentation today, more on the brand identity side, right? So we're going to talk about the brand structure and how to get to that last stage. But of course, getting to brand identity, that logo design, the colors is a key component of your branding. So we're going to talk about the logo, fonts, the tagline, ways to apply your brand, live your brand, and more. All right, so what is branding? Let me transition to the next slide here. So branding, building a connection between customers and a company, service, or product, establishing a brand that customers trust. I also have heard of I don't know if it was the Amazon CEO that said this quote, but a brand is what people think of you or say about you when you're not in the room. So it's more than just a logo, it's a feeling, right? When you think of maybe some luxurious brands, we're going to go over a couple of examples, like luxury car brands. There's certain things that come to mind. This is high-end, good quality, very buttoned up customer service, right? Versus more of maybe a casual brand that you perhaps follow on Instagram or on Facebook. They're very friendly, approachable. Jimmy John's is the example I always give, right? They always say, hey, how are you when you walk in? Very friendly, very casual tone with their language. Same thing on their Facebook pages, that very casual, approachable, conversational tone that all relates to the brand that they are working to not only establish, but maintain that brand consistency. So it's not just your logo, it's a feeling, right? It's certain thoughts that come to mind when you do think of that company name. There's a variety of things, like I mentioned, that go into a good brand outside of just a logo. And the ones that I'm sharing with you today, I like to call this brand heart, brand messaging, and then brand identity. So let's start with brand heart. And out of all the slides today, this is probably one of the most important ones. So feel free to take a screenshot or a photo of it, or again, just download the presentation after the webinar today. But brand heart, this is your vision statement, your purpose statement, your mission and values. What do you stand for? Why are you in business? Why did you start your business, right? What are your, and we're going to talk about this a little more, what are your key differentiators? We all have competition. Competition is good, right? We don't want a monopoly. But why should someone come to you instead of going down the street and going to one of your competitors? It's one of the first questions that we always ask our clients when we first start working with them is, everything you're telling me is great. You have a great business, but why should I purchase from you? Why should I take advantage of your services as opposed to someone down the road that maybe they have a cheaper alternative? You'll see as we go through some ideas, some people are willing to spend more for a very similar product because they're buying into the brand. They're not necessarily just buying the product, they're buying a piece of the brand. So that is brand heart, your vision, your purpose, your mission, your values. What do you stand for? What are some of those core principles? And then we go into your brand messaging. This is your brand voice, your personality. Perhaps this is a tagline that you use, your messaging pillars, right? So again, going back to the Jimmy John's example, that's a very casual, approachable brand voice. Then you think of maybe a wealth management advisor, a financial institution. They're going to have a very confident brand voice, a very polished, professional brand voice, right? That represents this financial institution. And then of course, brand identity, your logos, your typography, the fonts that you use, the type of imagery that you use or that a photographer takes around your place of business. You know, a lot of times we've run into cases where people will come to us and they pulled maybe a logo from Google and they say, this is what I would like my logo to look like. But they haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the brand heart and the brand messaging for their business. That's what helps us drive the brand identity, that design process. When it comes to a logo design and the colors and the fonts, everything has a meaning. The colors that we pick have a meaning. The fonts that we pick have a meaning. And you know, you may not be an artistic type, but you've all seen it, right? We've seen advertisements on commercials, in magazines, on billboard ads, right? And they spark something. They spark some sort of feeling, whether that's a fun, playful feeling, a very serious, buttoned up feeling. And all that comes from the brand heart and the brand messaging that advertiser, that marketer put into place before they came and developed the design, the logo, and the creative. Once you have this brand structure established, one of the things I recommend is developing what we call a brand guide. This is a living document that essentially documents everything about your brand. So this is your mission statement, right? Your tagline. This is but most importantly, your logo files, the fonts that you use, the color codes. Again, this is one of the first questions that we always ask new clients. If we're designing pieces for them, can you send us your brand guide? And, you know, I'm still surprised today that a lot of people don't have it documented somewhere. It doesn't need to be formal. It could just be a Word document that just has, okay, here are our color codes and here's the font that we use. But it's really important to have some sort of living document. And I say living because your brand may evolve and change a little bit over the years. But this is the main foundation of your brand. This helps make everything consistent, whether that's an ad, maybe you designed in Canva. Maybe that's an ad that a billboard company helps you design, or some flyers that you have printed from a local printing company. Everything is consistent. And you may have an intern that's helping you design something, someone at the billboard company helping you design something, but whomever is designing it, they all have this guide now to work off of. And as a designer, as a graphic designer, this is what we want. This is what we look for because it helps direct us when it comes to that creative. So typically that brand guide, again, has your logo, how to use it, how not to use it. I'm going to give you an example at the end. Your color codes, your digital color codes. But if you're taking notes, definitely write down what your Pantone color is. Some of us have physical spaces, whether that's an office or a coffee shop, a restaurant, a retail store. You may need something printed, whether that's an interior sign, something from for your windows, you know, signage, decals, etc. Your printing company may ask you, what's your Pantone color of your brand? And you may be thinking, I don't even know what Pantone is. Essentially, it's the master keeper of all color. And your Pantone color is what a lot of printers use for physical printing pieces. And so we had to do the same thing when we moved into our office. We have, of course, our blue color that we use for all of our digital purposes, but when we came up with some physical pieces that we hung up on the wall, like dimensional signage, we had to have our Pantone color. And typically that is outlined in a brand guide. So just some things to keep in mind as you are working to develop your brand a bit more. It's really important as maybe you're a new business on the call, you're starting a brand from scratch, or maybe you're thinking of rebranding. You know, our look and feel on our website, our messaging does not reflect who we are. And I'll be honest, we actually at Clanin, we're kind of going through a potential rebranding process ourselves, which is fun. We found this window of opportunity, and it makes sense for us to potentially rebrand at this time. So more to come on that. We're really excited for that. But it's really important, whether you're rebranding or starting a new brand, to understand who your audience is. Who do you want your customers, your clients to be, or who are they now? And so I have this slide in pretty much all of our webinars because it is important, regardless of what you're doing when it comes to strategic design or marketing, to understand who you're talking to. So who do you want to talk to? Where are they on the internet? And what's most important to them? From there, tell me more about their income, their gender, their hobbies, behaviors, lifestyle choices, etc. Going on now to your brand mission statement, again, thinking back to why you started your business. Why are you in business, right? What value does your business provide? And what is your company most passionate about? There's, of course, hundreds of examples of mission statement online that you could look at through Google. There's a lot of really cool mission statement exercises that I've done with either clients or ourselves. But your mission statement defines your purpose for existing. So if you have a really cool brand that you follow and you love, maybe spend some time and look at, do they have a mission statement on their website? What is it? What's their brand tone? Do they have a brand guide that you can maybe find? And of course, this would be more for a larger brand, but do you have a brand guide online that you could find? Just to kind of get some inspiration from. But again, your mission statement defines your purpose for existing. This is the foundation of really everything you do. So a little exercise here. So what do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it better? And why do you do it? Why are you in business? So just some things to think about, kind of what we call thought starters, to start writing out some things. We've done exercises where you write certain words or statements on Post-it notes, and everyone hangs these Post-it notes on the wall, and you start developing a sentence from some of these words, from some of these statements. So really cool exercises. Again, there's hundreds that you can find online, but when you're thinking of branding, and if you're rebranding or starting from scratch, really think about, let's hone in on why we're in business, right? Why do we do what we do, and why do we do it better? Thinking of why we do it better, it's really important to understand your competitors. This is the first thing that I did when I was starting my business, is we wanted to look at not only local competitors, but competitors within the 50 to 100-mile radius, for at least for what we do, right? Obviously, I wouldn't do a 100-mile radius for a coffee shop. That wouldn't make sense. But really think about the industry that you're in. But who are your competitors? Start creating a list of those competitors. What services and products do they offer? What are customers saying about them? Look at the reviews. What are they known for? And how do they market their business? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? What's the type of content that they're pushing out? You may be thinking, how does this relate to my brand, my logo, my brand messaging? And it all goes back to, how do you stand out amongst the crowd? How do you cut through the noise online? As we all know, social media is cluttered with so much content now. There's ads, there's videos left and right. It's your aunt posting a recipe. It's this person that you haven't talked to in so many years, right? Facebook and social media is just littered with a ton of content. How can you stand out, right, to get your messaging across that makes you different from some of your competitors? In order to really understand your differentiators, and again, what makes you different in your marketplace, you need to first look at your competitors and what are they doing? Who are they servicing? What are they known for? And maybe how can you create this pocket, this corner that they're not reaching, and really double down on that. So again, do a little bit of competitor research. Again, what makes you unique? Give your audience a reason to choose you over another. So what value do you provide, and what experience do you deliver? So the example I'm going to give here is, I'm from the Peoria area, and back in high school, I worked at a fitness facility, and I was not into fitness at all. So I probably shouldn't have worked there. But I was like, I need to look the part. So I really got into running, and I started running the trails through our town, and I needed new running shoes. And everyone I talked to, they all said, you need to go to Running Central. At the time, it was kind of by Bradley University. It's not the photos that you see here. Is a much smaller shop. So of course I go to Running Central. I pull up, and it's a kind of an older building. It's nothing crazy. The design of it was okay. It was just kind of honestly, it was kind of a tired looking building. And I walk in, and it was very kind of this mom and pop shoe store. I'm thinking to myself, what's so special about this place? But immediately someone came up and was like, great, what can I help you with today? And I told them I'm simply just looking for a new pair of running shoes. And instead of going over to the wall and me just picking out a shoe that I thought looked cool, that probably a lot of us do, and cross our fingers that it's in our size and then sort through all the boxes, He asked me a lot of questions on my type of, my style of running. Am I a long distance runner? Am I more of a casual runner? Just a series of questions. Of course, measured my foot, and then told me to essentially sit down, and brought me. Went to the back and brought out a variety of different shoe options in my sizes. Now, I didn't really get a say in the design, but based on the questions that I answered, he was now providing me with some recommendations of shoes that would work for that. I tried them on, they looked great, thankfully, and they fit great. And then he said, let's go outside. And I thought that was kind of strange. So we go outside and we're on the sidewalk, and he crouches down and he says, now run down the block. And I thought this was bizarre. Again, I was in high school, I had no idea what was going on. But I realized as I looked back and I was running, and my parents raised me right. Good thing I didn't keep running down the block like Forrest Gump and just run off with the shoes. But I ran down the block. I looked back and I realized he was looking at the way my feet were touching the ground, and how the shoe was interacting with my style of running. Run back, they felt great. He said, everything looked really good. I think these are the shoes for you. And I was very pleased with them. I ended up buying them. They were a little expensive at the time, but at the end of the day, it was the experience. That's what it was about. I probably could have purchased those shoes or similar shoes for maybe a fraction of the cost somewhere else or out of a big box store. But I realized this brand that they were building wasn't about the look of the shoe, right? Wasn't necessarily about the look of the store. It was all about the customer experience and how they were going to remain competitive in the world of Amazon, in the world of big box stores. They continued to grow their business. And now they have this really cool store in downtown Peoria. They've really grown. This is a photo of the new store. But again, just a little example of, you're not just buying, in this case, you're not just buying a running shoe, you're buying now an experience. And of course, I remembered this, and I still remember it to this day. It was a simple little interaction. The guy probably doesn't remember it anymore. But of course, when people asked about running shoes, I remember this place now. It's now that word of mouth marketing, which is gold in the world of marketing. Of course, we've all seen this symbol before, the logo for Mercedes. I have never owned a Mercedes. Some of you on the call may own it, but I would say maybe a majority of us, we just don't have the opportunity maybe to own a splurge on a luxury car. And so, but what's really cool in the world of branding and good, consistent type brands is that we have never owned a Mercedes before, but already certain things start coming to mind. How is that possible, right? It's the commercials, it's the consistent ads that we see, it's the messaging that they use, it's the colors and the fonts that they use, right? To create this elevated, high-end quality look. I could probably picture what the inside of a dealership looks like at a Mercedes dealer. Again, even though I've never owned a car and I've never stepped foot into a dealership, what are their salespeople wearing? What is the brand tone on Facebook? What's the type of furniture that I might see within a dealership, right? This all starts painting a picture of a brand. And a Mercedes, like many cars nowadays, is kind of on the surface, a basic car, right? You have a four-door sedan. I could buy a four-door sedan that is probably the same size, maybe similar features. Mercedes may have maybe a better type of leather or interior, but at the end of the day, I could find a car that is pretty similar to maybe a Mercedes four-door sedan. But why would I want to spend more for Mercedes? It's because you're buying a piece of a brand. You now own a Mercedes car. There's a status that comes with that, right? You are now a Mercedes owner. It's all part of being part of the Mercedes brand. And so that's why some people are willing to spend more, not just because of the product, because they want to be part of the brand. So a fun little example I like to give again, just for Mercedes. I want to segue over to brand identity, right? We start thinking of what are some of those differentiators? What are some things that you want people to think about when they think of your business, right? Who are your competitors? And again, for some of you, you may be really good at customer service, and maybe that's your differentiator, very similar to Running Central. You have all that set. Now let's talk about brand identity. This is the fun part. This is what a lot of people want to do when it comes to branding, your logo design. So let's talk about your logo. Everything I'm sharing with you today is out of one of my favorite books. It's at the bottom, bottom left here, Logo Design Love. And you have the author's name there, David. So if you're interested in logo design, certainly look that up. But these are some main principles I want to share when it comes to a logo design. And before I go through those, a couple little notes. I do recommend working with a graphic designer, a freelancer, a company, whoever you connect with, you click with for your logo design. There are some out-of-the-box solutions that you can go with online. And if you're really strapped for cash, and if you don't have a lot of money to spend on brand identity, that may be a possibility for you. But if you do have some money to spend, definitely invest it into your branding. Your brand is everything. And this is what people see and what people think about when they see your name, when they see your logo out in the community. There's a variety of different things that designers just know how to do, that they will think about. They will ask a lot of questions before they even start designing to make sure that this logo can work on a variety of different applications. So again, if you want to design it yourself, by all means, go for it. But I do recommend working with a freelancer, someone who went to school for graphic design. They're going to help guide you down that path to a very strong logo design. But some things to keep in mind, whether you are designing it yourself or you're working with a designer. First thing is keep it simple. Simple solution is often most effective because a simple logo helps meet most of the other requirements of iconic logo designs. I've been in a few meetings where a client wants this in the logo. They want this backstory, but then they also want this to mean this, and this other item to represent this. Keep it simple. You want a logo, and think of, again, some of maybe the national larger brands that you follow and really love. What are their designs, right? You want someone to glance at, look at it, and just understand exactly what it is from the start. You don't want to try to unpack the backstory and explain X, Y, Z with it. You want to keep it simple. Keep it relevant, of course. The logo needs to be appropriate for the business it identifies. So again, you don't want a fun, casual, cutesy font for a law firm, right? A law firm, you need something that's more serif-based, strong, it has a sense of confidence with it, darker colors, so keep it relevant. Incorporate tradition. Again, there's a lot of, design trends overall, whether it be interior design trends, fashion trends, or in this case, graphic trends, branding trends. It changes a lot. And right now we're seeing some really unique fonts come out that are playing with a lot of thin weights and really cool movement to it. It's really cool. We've seen a lot of logos or companies online kind of transition to some of those, but just be careful to make sure that this logo is still going to look good in the next 5-10 years. So again, think about that, incorporate tradition. Aim for something that's recognizable. Again, you don't want to get too abstract with the design. Commit to memory. Design something that, again, that's memorable right when someone sees it for the first time or the second time, and focus on one thing. So incorporate just one feature to help your design stand out. So if you have, so for example, for us in our corner, our logo in the corner, we decided not to go with a logo mark. A logo mark may be an icon that's above the logo, a tree, Apple has the little apple that's cut out there. Some companies, when you're big enough and you can rely just on a logo mark, you don't even need words to go along with that. So Apple or Nike. But for us, we just wanted a bold, clean, easy to read font for our name, and then the subline as marketing. We didn't want a logo mark because for us, the attention is really on the work that we do for our clients, not necessarily for ourselves. So we wanted to keep our design very simple. Fonts are really fun to think about. Like brands, fonts have their own personality. So you have serif fonts. This is your basic typeface with extra details on the letter. Sometimes you call these little tick marks. We've all seen these before. You have like Times New Roman, Georgia, etc. And again, these have certain feelings that come to mind, right? Reliable, respectable, dependable, reputable, great for like financial institutions, business coaches, wealth management advisors, lawyers, etc. Right? It just makes sense to use more of a sans serif font, or I'm sorry, serif font. Sans serif fonts are very clean, easy to read fonts: Helvetica, Arial, Century Gothic. These are more contemporary, futuristic, straightforward. A lot of tech companies use sans serif fonts, even though I will say we are seeing a little bit of a shift back to serif fonts over the past year. So that'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years what where fonts go. But think about those things when it comes to your logo design. Does this represent your business? Colors are fun. So of course, these are very bright colors. There's hundreds of millions of color shades online. And again, these are a little more vibrant, but colors mean something, right? So orange, energetic, fun; yellow, friendly, warm; green, natural, healthy, peaceful; blue is one of my favorite colors, and it's a strategic color that we picked for our company because we're managing brands, we're managing marketing campaigns for our clients, and so we wanted our color to represent this sense of trustworthiness, secure, responsible. Of course, like brown, earthy, simple, dependable. Think about, again, maybe some brands that you follow. What are some of the colors that they use? I always like going to the grocery store and midway through, just looking down in my cart and seeing what colors, because I'm a nerd, what colors are in my cart. And usually at the grocery store, we see a lot of orange and red. And do that next time you're at the grocery store. See what type of colors are on all this packaging. And again, it's all very strategic. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in packaging design to spark a feeling, right? We see a lot of red and orange in the grocery store because it's supposed to be energetic. They want us to be excited in the store, to get kind of hungry in the store and put all the things in the cart. And it certainly worked before when we've gone to the store hungry. So think about colors. There's a lot of really cool resources online that unpack colors a bit more and pair colors appropriately with certain feelings or brands. But don't just go with a color that is your favorite. Again, think back to your audience, think back to the service or product that you're looking to promote and sell. Does that color reflect your business appropriately? We're going to do a little bit of an exercise here. And again, this is just kind of going back to a few slides that we just talked about when it comes to making something that's recognizable, something that the colors are appropriate and the fonts are appropriate to that. So I'm going to pull up a couple of either logo marks or just a screenshot of a section of their logo to see if, one, you recognize it, and two, just to kind of explain and unpack the font and the color pairings. Okay, so we're just going to go through a couple of these. You probably recognize some of these already. And these are specifically local to the Champaign-Urbana area. So if you are outside of that, again, you may not recognize some of these, but hopefully some come to mind. So we're going to start with the top left and then go through. This first one here, this cutout eye, this is the I Hotel. Second one, State Farm Center. Champaign Outdoors. First Federal. This middle one, I think a lot of people will probably recognize, Busey Bank. And Logic Everyday Community, located in Champaign. So again, simple logo designs. It's nothing crazy. They're not trying to incorporate a lot of different meaning, a lot of different icons, colors, too many fonts and a design. So if we go through these, the one I love is Champaign Outdoors. I love this one because you're using, of course, green. It makes complete sense, right? When you're trying to market an outdoor company. Green. Look at the font. for Champagne Outdoors. It kind of has a, I don't want to say slightly rugged, maybe, outline for Champagne Outdoors. It's not perfectly clean. It's not super straight lines. It has slightly rounded corners. Rounded corners also help kind of reflect this approachable, friendly feeling as opposed to harsh, straight corners. And then you have this kind of almost hand-drawn line underneath that, and then mountains to Main Street, and more of this script handwritten font. Again, very casual. I love this idea. I also love the tagline, mountains to Main Street. You know, if I needed a coat, if I'm really going on an intense hiking trip, or a coat when I go grab a drink in downtown, right? It sounds like they have it all. And then they're using that kind of, that dog tag as one of their logo marks. Really good example. Of course, the State Farm Center, using the dome of the State Farm Center as the logo mark there. Logic Everyday Community, this is part of Moose International, so they needed to incorporate that moose, but they're all about you know, embracing families, embracing growing businesses. So having that moose calf there with the parent makes complete sense. So some really fun examples. Again, they're all simple. They all use a font that's bold, it's easy to read, colors that pair appropriately, and then fonts that pair appropriately with them. First Federal, of course, with that bold, that kind of call this their eagle wing mark. Really cool transparent colors there that help provide more of a modern feel. And then you have this really nice bold or black, what we call black weight, First Federal name, Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana as that subline down there. Other example I love giving is the Farmhouse Restaurant in Harvest Market in Champaign. If you haven't been there, definitely check it out. Really cool little cafe restaurant within the grocery store. What I love about this is that they're pairing traditional with modern. And so when you're thinking of farmhouse, you're thinking of something that's older, right? So they're using a serif font for the word farmhouse restaurant. There's this fonts with these little tick marks, but they modernize it because they increase what we call the kerning, the spacing between the letters there. They're using a really cool shade of yellow, pairing it with a gray color that again has that modern feel. They created this really cool aqua blue icons, if you will, the tractor, the gardening equipment there that you can kind of see in the photo below are incorporated throughout. You have a bag design, coffee cup design there, again, with all the colors. This is where your color codes come into play, the Pantone color. Because again, if you look at the photo in the bottom right, they have that yellow in that barn on the gray wall. They needed to know exactly what shade of yellow to put that barn in. Same with the first floor image with the two windows and the hanging light fixtures. That yellow, they had to use a specific Pantone color so you maintain that consistency across the board. So again, it's well branded. It certainly sparks a certain feeling. We call this environmental branding, when you're taking your brand and applying it to a physical space. Typically, environmental brand agencies work very closely with interior design agencies. You can kind of see that with even the chairs that they selected in there. They have that kind of farmhousey, eclectic feel. So it's all paired very nicely together. If you're thinking of a brand identity in terms of your tagline, just some things to think about. Don't be overly clever. A good tagline is primarily functional. It should explain the unique value that your business offers and then make it memorable. So you only have a few moments to get your customers' attention. A great tagline will stay with someone even if they only hear it once. So Busey, I don't know if they still use this one or not, but Your Dream, Our Promise, I love that one. Christie Clinic, We Listen, We Care. We've probably all heard of the BMW one, The Ultimate Driving Machine. McDonald's is famous. I'm loving it. Again, Champagne Outdoors, Mountains to Main Street. A tagline is something that takes a little bit of time. This could be a fun strategic session with you and your team, or if you bring in an advisor to kind of help direct those conversations. But a lot can come out of a brainstorming session of who you want to be as a brand. And then that's where you can develop your mission statement and your tagline statement. Thinking back to the brand personality, how do you communicate with your customers? What are some of those brand tones? Professional, friendly, service-oriented. That's what the Running Central one was. Authoritative, conversational, informative. For our brand tone, we're very friendly, but yet professional. We are conversational, and we're also informative. We're an agency where we believe in empowering our clients, empowering others, because marketing shouldn't be this hidden secret behind the curtain. Anyone can market. It's all about just sharing good content and helping people down the correct path to great design and great marketing. So choose a brand voice that makes sense and resonates with your target customers. Keep the brand tone the same across all platforms. If you'd like to look at an example for this, certainly look at Jimmy John's, look at their website, look at perhaps some of their printed menus, printed collateral, look at their social media, and you'll see that they have a consistent brand tone throughout. Example here. This is their website on the left. You can kind of see how they respond to people. I'm sorry for any confusion, Wally. I do offer a whole, halved, and quarter giant dill pickles, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost coming from the brand voice of Jimmy John himself. They sometimes respond with gifts or memes, which again is just fun and it's casual. So what is your brand tone? Another example I like, sticker mule. Custom stickers that kick ass. I love that tagline. I will say, if you are looking for really cool die cut stickers, magnets, custom packaging, look this up. We use this for all of our clients anytime we're needing to place an order for these type of items. But what I love with their website is they know who they are and they use it with just simple messaging, simple brand tone across their site. We aim to build an incredible experience for ordering custom products. Wasting time sucks. That's why we relentlessly focus on making it fast and easy to order custom products. So, it's simple copy, and right away why they're in business. And it makes me want to order for them because it's like, yes, wasting time does suck. And I will say their process is super easy. They're just a great company to work with. But not only consider them for stickers, but take a look at them for brand tone and messaging as an example. All right, we have about 15 minutes here. I want to go over a couple more slides and just make sure we have some time at the end for questions. But one of the things, once you have your brand established, it's really important to understand how to integrate your brand and how to roll your brand out. So your brand should be visible and reflected in everything that your customer sees. So this is your office or business design. We just moved into a new office. We're out of the old Orpheum Theater in downtown Champaign on the second floor. And so we moved into space. It's a little interesting because since we're on the second floor, we have a front door, but immediately you have to go up the stairs to get to our office. So we don't have a reception area or waiting room that a lot of offices do have. So we wanted to think about what are ways that people interact with our space. So I walked through the space as a customer would, and then found where blank walls were. How can we add certain messaging? How can we add our logo to these blank areas so then when someone is coming in, it does feel like an office. It does feel like, yes, I'm going in the right spot up these stairs here to the office. So the office business design, stationery, advertisements, packaging, website and digital accounts, copy, etc. When you're sending invoices through QuickBooks for those on the call, service-based businesses, making sure that you're adding in the color codes on your invoices, you're adding in your logo there. For those of you who use Canva, great platform. We might have a webinar on that later this year. You have what's called a brand kit within Canva, where you can add all of your fonts and colors. Again, this is where you want to make sure you integrate your brand on that platform. There's so many things to consider. The other example, I was just working with a client yesterday. They're a physical therapy clinic, and they're building a brand new clinic because they've outgrown and they need to move out of their old one. But right now they're working on, okay, what's the carpet? What's the paint color on the wall? What are those environmental messaging, those graphics that we need to take place? And it's all really important to think about those things early on, because it's the experience that someone should have when they come into this space. Do they feel like they're in the clinic, right? Does it feel like the brand? Are they using the brand colors? Are they using the fonts? When you list the hours on the door. It all should have a nice, tight, consistent look. One of my favorites, I'm going to skip over this just a little bit, but is the American Airlines rebrand. Certainly look into this. I think this was very sharp, very bold and powerful rebranding example. There's so many different brand guides online. Walmart always has a really good one that I like because they have imagery that they use, of course, all their colors, how to use the logo, how not to use the logo, the minimum size the logo should be, and more. So if you're looking at examples, just type in brand guide examples on Google and you'll see there's hundreds of options that will come up. For something simple, don't be afraid of just throwing it into a Word document. As long as it's living somewhere that you can send to someone, whether it be a designer or someone helping you with some Canva projects, you have it documented. And then finally, we'll end with brand advocates. So no one knows your brand better than you. So it's really important to make sure that your employees are also a brand advocate for your brand. Ensure your employees understand your mission, your vision, and your values of your brand. Give your customers a voice, encourage them to post reviews or share your content. So, while you're in business, make sure your employees are on the same boat with you there. Even thinking about going back to the Mercedes example, do you have certain uniforms that your employees wear? I know for us, for our polos, we have a blue color of our logo, but a white version of our logo. And in terms of our polo colors, it's either blue, white, or gray. So we're not ordering red polos or yellow polos. It's all have a tight, consistent look. Employees, there's certain words that we like to say on the phone. There's certain ways that we like to conduct ourselves over email. Again, it all ties back to our brand. We're all on the same page. And then give your customers a voice. Encourage them to post reviews or share your content. Quick little example here is just Tom's, a little similar to the Running Central, but Tom's really blew up when I was in school. Very simple kind of slip-on shoe. And I remember when they were really hot, I was kind of confused on why they were so popular because they were just a simple looking shoe. But I found out that for every pair, I think you purchase, Tom's, I think, donates a pair to those in need in another country. It was one of the, I think, first brands that did that well or marketed that well because it just sold like hotcakes. You felt good when you were buying a piece of the brand, right? You weren't just buying a pair of shoes anymore, kind of like the Mercedes example. You were now buying a piece of the brand. You feel good because you're giving back, or the company is giving back on your behalf. And so everyone was wearing Tom's. And even when certain competitors came out with similar looking shoes, those still didn't sell well because people wanted to spend maybe a little bit more to be part of this kind of Tom shoes brand. So, just again, a little example there. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar of what's in a brand. As you see, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot to think about and unpack. Jordan and I may develop a separate webinar later into 2023 that maybe just takes a sliver of one of those, the brand heart, the brand messaging, and brand identity, unpack that a little bit more. But branding is not an overnight project. It does take time. So certainly plan it out, work with your team, work with a consultant to help navigate this process with you, because your brand is everything, and this can really make or break a business. So I hope you got some good takeaways from today's webinar. I'm so excited that you joined us today. We had a good number on today's webinar, and I hope you join us for one of our future webinars coming up. So I'm going to hand it over to Jordan to see if we had any questions, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so we actually do have quite a few questions that we have submitted. So the first one says, if we have our color codes, how can we get the Pantone colors? Is that a simple Google ask or something more specific?
That's a great question. Technically, Pantone offers these Pantone color swatches, but they're very expensive, and typically agencies or designers have them in-house. So if you worked with a designer to develop those colors or that logo for you, they should be able to convert your digital color codes to Pantone. Some of them may have the swatches. If you have Illustrator, if you designed it yourself in Illustrator, there is a way in Illustrator where you can go in what's called your color book, and convert that digital color to a Pantone color, and it will give you the Pantone code. Lastly, I believe there should be some resources on Google where you can add in your RGB color, and it should convert that over to a Pantone color. If you're unsure, and if maybe a company is working with you and they need your Pantone color and they're local, simply ask if they can maybe help you with the Pantone, because it's crazy. It's very similar to like wall paint. You can go a shade up or a shade down, but you want to make sure you get that right shade. So you don't really want to make a mistake there, especially if you're ordering something expensive and you can't afford to redo it again. So if you're working with a vendor and they're asking for the Pantone color and you tried those 3 items that I just listed, see if maybe they can help you. It's just a few clicks on the graphic designer's end to get, excuse me, to get you that color, or they may have the swatches that they can look at.
Okay, perfect. The next one says, do these brand ideas reflect similarly to nonprofits, or is that a vastly different approach?
Nope. I would say everything we mentioned applies to both for-profit and nonprofit organizations. I think for nonprofit organizations, one of the key differentiators is, to me, and again, others may think differently, but it really comes down to the copy that you're using on the website of who you are. You know, I know nonprofits, they have a big fundraising element, right, to keep them going. And so how do you get people on board with your story? How do you get people to support your mission so you can continue on what you're doing? A lot of that comes down to really solid strategic copywriting, certain keywords and phrases that should be incorporated on your website and all of your collateral. But your brand identity, the principles of that are pretty much the same.
Okay, the next one says, I'm a graphic designer and I have recently been venturing into my own apparel, stickers, prints, etc. My question is, do I keep it within my brand for my graphic design business, or do I create a separate brand for that portion of the business? I've seen it done both ways within the design world, but just looking for pros and cons / a second opinion.
Yeah, of course, this is something that I think I would need to learn a little more about your business and where you're going, but just kind of the first thought, it depends what the future kind of looks like, right? Do you just want to stick with stickers and these other items that you mentioned? If so, I think having it under your brand is fine. Because then that's what you're known for. You're known for designing these really cool items. But if you would like the ability to venture out in the future and maybe design these other products that are for sale that aren't related to really what you're doing, then in that case, I would brand that separately as its own standalone brand that just does these stickers and those other items. So that's how I would approach that. But again, it's a little hard without knowing a little more information about your graphic design business.
Okay, the next one says, you mentioned the emotional part of the branding. To capture that is challenging. Any tips?
It is challenging. We like to conduct focus groups with businesses. Again, this is where costs come into play. So I know not everyone is going to have the ability to conduct focus groups, but the emotional part of branding is, yeah, if you already have a business, and if you already have customers, why are they customers? How did your product or service, I don't want to say change their life, but help better improve their life or their day-to-day, right? It all kind of depends on what industry, what product or service that you're selling. Understanding what they're saying and then infusing that into your branding, that's your copywriting. Maybe it's a kind of overview video for your business. That's a great way to get some kind of emotional language from current customers. And then if you think about, when you think about like, yeah, sparking some emotion, if you're new and you don't have customers and you really want to get that across, why did you start the business, right? You know, I started my business because I saw back in the day when social media was brand new, businesses were struggling on this new platform called Facebook for Business. And then that just continued to grow into, well, businesses also need help with these things. And me joining a lot of different local community boards and committees, I met with a lot of business owners and saw the need for that. And so we designed our agency to help growing businesses, those small and mid-sized businesses, with their marketing and being partners with those. And so that is kind of a little nugget of our emotional language, is we understand where these businesses came from, because I was a marketing director, marketing manager in previous roles, and I know the struggle. And so that's how we came to be. But yeah, so conducting research and understanding why people buy from you, or really doubling down into why you started the business, could really help paint this kind of raw, real, trustworthy, approachable, emotional messaging on your website and through all your collateral.
Okay, we do just have a few more, but I do want to thank anyone who does have to jump off before we dive into these. So thank you. If you have to hop off, you will receive the follow-up, but I do want to get these answered real quick. The next one says, do you have a PDF, or I guess maybe a list of what we should include in a brand guide? Great
question. I don't have just a list, because every brand guide that we've created is a little different. For our simple brand guides, because for some of our clients, we just do like a quick one sheet and that's what it is. It is your logo, your full color logo, and then a solid color version of your logo, typically like an all white version, to make sure that your logo looks good as an all white version, but showing that you do have an all white version of your logo. Your color codes, so your hex code, HEX code, and then your RGB code, and then your Pantone color. Now, for those of you still on the call, I don't know if the person who asked about the Pantone color is still on the call. There's Pantone coded and uncoded. It gets kind of weird. Typically, coded is the color that you're looking for. The Pantone coded color is on there as well. Sometimes with brand guides, you have how not to use the logo. Really, that's for if you have a bigger team, you have maybe multiple people designing maybe a PowerPoint presentation. But if it's just you and a handful of other people, you don't really need to put the use cases. What I mean by that is, showing, don't change the subline color of our logo. Don't stretch it. Don't put it on top of an image in its full color. Use the all white version. So they give you some rules. And then of course, fonts. What's the font that you use for your brand? A little tip I didn't mention, so if you're taking notes, definitely write this down. Make sure that you have the license rights to use the fonts for your logo design. Google Fonts is a free platform that we use a lot, and you can download the licensing for those fonts for not only like print collateral, but a web version of your font. So if you are designing your own website through an out-of-the-box solution or working with a web developer, they will use that web font and then incorporate that on your website. You have a nice consistent look across the board. So again, that's called Google Fonts. Really cool library. You can type in some test words or a phrase, and it'll show you what it looks like in that font. So that's what's typically included in a brand guide. But again, there's hundreds of examples online that will show you what a brand guide could look like. All right. And then it looks like our last one says, I'm trying to figure out how to make my coaching business a brand. Would my picture be the brand or my logo? I think maybe like a headshot versus a logo. Yeah, that's a good question. To me, I would start with your picture, but still develop a logo. Your logo is still going to go on your shirt, on your business cards. If you develop some ads within Canva, you still want the logo in the corner. But since you are starting out, and if it's just you, you're the coach, you're the brand. Why should people trust you? Really good headshot. Definitely invest in good photography for everyone. On the website, headshots, photography sells. So work with a really good photographer that you click with. But I would start with your headshot first, but still have a very strong logo that you incorporate on your other materials. All right, perfect. So that is all of our questions, and we have thank yous coming in. So thank you so much, Scott, for presenting. That was a ton of great information. And like I said, there will be a follow-up email later this afternoon, so you'll get the recording, and then also that link that Scott had in the beginning of the PowerPoint, where you can go to the Clanin Marketing website to download a copy of the presentation. And then once again, I do want to thank all of our community partners on today's session. We do have a pretty full schedule for this year, so we're scheduling out at a quarter. So right now we do have everything scheduled through April. We'll be holding 2 sessions a month with Scott. So
Feel free to check those out on the Clanin site, the SBDC site, our community partners, wherever you found this one, you can find the next ones. And as always, we'll send out the newsletters for those too as they come up. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Scott.
Great. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in one of our next webinars. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.